Hello fellow bookworms, it's Katie. Today I'd like to talk about Jane Austen at home. This is a new thing that I'm doing. It's kind of, no, it's not really. It's instead of a book review, I'm reviewing an audiobook because I listen to Jane Austen at home as an audiobook. This is read by Ruth Redman. As the title of the book says, Jane Austen at home, it is a biography of Jane Austen. And yeah, that's what you get. The biography of Jane Austen from before she was born even. You get information about her parents, a lot of other things until her death, and then a little bit after her death how the family, tried to stir the information that the public would know about Jane Austen and what happened to her books after she died. Let's talk about the content. Yes, you get a lot of information about Jane Austen, and you get a lot of information about her extended family and other important figures in Jane's life, such as the man who, tried to marry Jane and propose to her, and who she sent into the desert, as we like to say in Germany. I don't think that's a English proverb, is it? It also tells you a little bit about important figures of the time. And although that was a lot of information, I really enjoyed it because it gave context to Jane's life. But I also really enjoyed is that it doesn't just give you facts of Jane's life, it really focuses on what the title says, Jane Austen at home, her life at home, how she lived during the different periods of her life, what kind of duties she had with the household, and what gave her joy, and what she just did for fun and things like that. There's also a lot of background information in this book about, the events and the general time period of that Jane Austen lived in, and about the customs that were, custom. That really helped to give context to Jane Austen's life and kind of explain her motives on why she behaved, how she behaved. I found it very well researched. The book explains everything. So even if you don't really have a grasp on the time period, you don't really know anything about Jane Austen, as I did going in, I didn't really know anything about her and about her life. This is a very excellently researched book that really deals with every little bit of information. Sometimes I thought that maybe it was a little bit too much information, for example when it deals about the business endeavors of very extended family, and I get that this of course influenced Jane's and her sister's and her mother's life, especially after her father's death, because then the Austen women were dependent on, the graciousness and the generosity of her family. And sometimes I thought, which is often the case with biographies, with biographies of writers especially, sometimes I felt like there was a little bit too much interpretation of Jane Austen's novels. I felt sometimes with these interpretations the author just desperately wanted to connect them to Jane Austen's life, and of course her life definitely influenced her novels, but I think at some point it becomes speculation, and interpretation is always inherently subjective, and you can't really sell them as facts. Yeah, let's put it that way. So to the structure, it is divided into different parts, but it follows Jane Austen's life from birth to death, so it goes chronologically. Let's talk about the audio. I found the audio very, understandable, very comprehensible. I don't know the exact term for this, but it was a very clear pronunciation, and there were two more narrators to narrate the different quotes of, letters or little poems or parts of Jane Austen's novels. Another thing about the narrator, which brings us to the personal thoughts and opinions, was that I really enjoyed her voice. It is a female narrator, Ruth Redman, as I said. I liked her voice, so that's something very personal and subjective, so I'm not saying that you will like her voice. Maybe, just try it out and listen to the 5 sample minutes that you get on Audible or wherever you get your audiobooks from. the theme of her life, losing her home, was something that I'm relating a lot to at the moment, because I kind of lost my home. Yeah, I mean, it's been 4 months since the fire happened, and just it's getting really, really difficult. The theme of this book, of Jane Austen losing her home, and home being such a big topic in her novels, it made me cry on occasion. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It hit my heart. Like, honestly, I'm so sad for Jane, and I just wanted to reach out through time and space and just hug her and tell her that everything's going to be fine. Sometimes it was a little bit too much information. It was a little bit overwhelming sometimes, and I found that there were so many people that all had very similar names that I was confused a lot of the times to who this person that we were talking about right now actually was, and how they related to Jane. That made me think that maybe the audiobook wasn't the best format for me. I think that the book has probably some pictures in them, and especially pictures of the different people that are talked about, and I think that probably would have helped to have a visual guide of the people that were in Jane's life and that were talked about. Because I was so confused sometimes. Overall, I think this book is very well written, well researched and well narrated. I gave this book 4 stars. I'm very glad that I listened to it. If you want to know more about Jane Austen, this is definitely a wonderful book to know more about her, because I feel like there's barely anything I haven't heard now about her. I feel like this is a book that contains, you know, everything. Alright, I hope you have an awesome day. I hope you're reading something magical and wonderful, and I will see you soon. Bye!